Welcome to This is Mappa, and I told you the next one was going to be a special one. We have a gentleman here that has played in Cyprus, but he's also played at the highest level in England. It's Julian Gray. How you doing, my guy? You good?
I'm good, thank you. How are
How's
you?
things? Busy?
Yeah, just working, coaching, just doing the normal stuff like everyone else, just trying to keep myself busy.
You enjoying it?
Yeah, I enjoy the coaching. That's one of the main reasons I went into it. I just wanted to give back to the younger players some of the stuff that I had to learn the hard way, So I never had no one to give me the insights and guidance of certain situations or dealing with things that in football what outside people don't see. So it's a way for me to obviously give them that knowledge and my experiences, and try and help them to not have to go through, or if they do, they know maybe better how to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, look, you yourself were at academy level, in the early 90s, mid 90s. So you know the fundamental difference between now and then. What would you say is the biggest difference that you've noticed from coaching? From being an academy player then to now?
I think they're in the building a lot more days than we were. Like we used to go a couple of days a week, and then obviously play in the holidays and meet up then. And then when I was like under 14s, so 15 and 16 season, they bought in where we just played for our clubs. So you didn't have a Sunday team anymore. We just played for, obviously I was at Arsenal, so we played for Arsenal then. So to build you up for when you become a scholar, as they call it now. So you would be playing every Sunday for Arsenal against other pro clubs instead of playing for your Sunday team. But still, we still only train twice a week. Whereas now the boys train could be 5-6 days as well as matches, So it's a lot more intense and more time in the building in that way. But I think there's pros and cons to that, because I think they still need to be kids.
Right, absolutely. And before we start talking about your time in Cyprus, looking at your career as a whole, which players would you say had the most impact and influence on you growing up, developing as a player and as a person?
There was a few, because at Arsenal, we had a lot of experienced players. So the likes of Tony Adams, Nigel Winterburn, those kind of players who were around the first team had been seasoned pros. Obviously, Ian Wright was a big influence for me also because we lived near each other. So when I was a first year YT, then obviously was just a scholar now, he started bringing me home, like taking me to training, because I was traveling from South London all the way to North London. And he just said, it made sense. He dropped me home one day after training, because I had to stay behind to do something because the first team was training later. And obviously we had to do our jobs and stuff like that. And I used to be on his boots. And he just said, he offered to give me a lift. He said, "Where do you live?" I said, "South London." He said, "Oh, I live there. Whereabouts?" And I told him. He said, "Oh, I can drop you. It's on my way home." So that's how it started. We built a relationship from there, and I spent a lot of time with him. He took me under his wing and showed me a lot of stuff. We talked, we spent time together at his house, watching football, playing snooker. I did lots of things with him, because obviously I'm traveling with him in the morning, going home with him after training. And we're still good friends now, and he's had a big impact on my career. I've always been there, been able to go to him and ask him for advice and stuff. So yeah, he had a positive impact. I'm trying to think. Obviously, I was very close.
Well, that's a huge name anyway in itself. Ian Wright, utter legend.
Yeah,
absolute legend.
He was, and he was someone I looked up to, and seeing his careers come from South London, like myself, came in late in the game, but what he achieved was massive. And
he was at Palace as well.
Wasn't he? That was part of the reason I went to Palace, because obviously he played under Steve Coppell. So I asked him what he was like, and he told me he was a great manager, and obviously it was not far from where I lived at the time. Whereas I was living in Crystal Palace at the time, so it just made sense, to go there. So as I said, he was a big influence, and there was other players that I played with. Obviously, Thierry Henry is a good friend of mine. We came very close when he came to Arsenal. So we hung out together. I helped him, obviously, because he was new to the country, and we became very, very close. And we're still good friends now, So,
well, look, you've mentioned two of the greatest players, not only to have played at Arsenal, but also in England. And, you know, I think you know as well as most, in fact, you know more than most, that Thierry Henry, when he came to England from Juventus, it was very difficult at the beginning for him. I think because obviously Nicolas Anelka had been and gone, and it was kind of like filling his shoes. But I'll tell you, once he got going, you're talking about one of, if not the greatest player to ever play in the Premier League.
Yeah, you know, obviously it was tough for him because he came from Juventus, wasn't really playing over there. No one really knew him in England, and then he was a winger at that point. So obviously he had to adapt to the Premier League. Obviously Arsene knew him from Monaco, so he knew what he could do and had obviously a vision which no one else saw to turn him into what he became, you know.
For sure. And knowing Thierry Henry as well as you do, what would he have made of Cyprus when you went to Cyprus? What would he have made of that? That whole...
You know, I don't know. He most really would have been surprised because obviously in some ways negative, some ways positive. But at the same time, you know, we just see it as football. We just want to play football. So you get, when you're playing, you kind of forget about the other stuff because you're playing. Yeah, the level from being at Arsenal to playing the Super League is two different levels. But for me, obviously, it was a case of I wanted a challenge to play abroad, and the opportunity came. So that's why I went.
So let's talk about that. Your first club in Cyprus, Ermis Aradippou. You went from Walsall, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So first of all, how does a move like that happen? Because we're talking about what year we're talking about? 2010, something like 11? 2011. So 2011, I still don't think Cyprus football was kind of on the map. Maybe Upwell the following season when they did so well in Europe might be that's when Cyprus really was put on the map. But, you know, a Cypriot club comes in for you. What's the first thing you're thinking?
Well, it was strange that happened. The agent contacted me and said,
okay,
like, would I be interested in going to Cyprus? There's a club that would like to sign you and the president wants to speak to you if you're interested, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm interested to hear more. So we had a couple more conversations, and then they said, look, they want me to come over and meet the president. He wants to bring me over there. So they flew me over, went to speak to him. He was such a nice guy, LOUKAS FANIEROS. And we went to eat. It was just so casual, and he just made me feel comfortable, you know. And as I said, that was something for me was very important. Like how he treated me, he just wanted me to be happy and was like, what do you need? What would you need to come here? Blah, blah, blah. And we spoke about it. And then I went home, discussed it with my wife, you know, and just was like, you know what, I feel this is something that I would like to do.
So you've gone to Cyprus, you've met the president. What was the first impression he gave you?
He was just, for me, he was so warm and like generous. And as I said, he didn't come across like a president like that I'd met before, if that makes sense. You know, he just seemed like someone, you could see his passion for the game and how much he cared. And that stood out for me, you know, because as I said, he was just, everything was, what can I do for you? How can I make you feel comfortable coming here? What do I need to do? And I was like, wow, you know, it's not normal that people speak to you like that. And as I said, it was just so chilled. We went to eat, we were just talking. He was just asking about me, trying to get to know me personally, which I felt I was really impressed with.
And how did you see the facilities at the club? Because again, you're coming from previous clubs being the Premier League, Coventry City, Crystal Palace, Arsenal, Walsall, even, you know, low league clubs. But you go to Cyprus and you look at what's going on there. Are you thinking I'm back at grassroots level?
No, at the time he showed me around the stadium, and then we spoke. We went to meet the manager and stuff at that point, and he just showed me around Cyprus. He took me around and said, look, these are places and it's up to you where you want to live. You can choose where you want to live, kind of thing. Whereas most people that I'd spoken to, obviously the club put them in apartments generally. But he said, obviously, when we spoke, I said, look, I want to choose where I want to live because that's important to me. My home life is important. And he said, no problem, you can do that. We'll put you in touch with the right people and stuff. He was just, as I said, so accommodating. But as I said, the facilities, I didn't think they was that bad. As I said, for me, it's more about playing. Obviously, all different levels. Some not top clubs, but clubs in the Premier League, maybe there's when I left Arsenal, nothing compared to that at the time. And it's only now, where 20, 30 years down, that Tottenham's got a new stadium that's on the level with Arsenal, Man City. But Arsenal was way advanced. Arsene Wenger was way advanced in everything that was in the training ground. Like, you still could go to London Coney now. Like, obviously, I went back and worked there. So it's still at a high level, considering it's older than everybody else's. So nowhere would have compared to that, if that made sense, wherever I left and went. So for me, it's not about that. It's about what we do and training and those things. Yeah, as long as there's a gym, you can do those things. And it's what the team, my teammates, the coach and the training, that's what's most important. It's not about...
So did you find it difficult going to that environment where perhaps it's not as advanced as what you were used to? Or was it a case of, well, I'm here now, I'm going to make the best of it, and I still want to play, and that's the most important thing?
No, for me, it was just, I just wanted to play. And as I said, if the facilities that you can always go and find a gym and I always do my extra stuff anyway. So it wasn't a case of, well, if they didn't have it, I could find somewhere else that could, because I know what I needed for my body. Obviously, I've always been one that done my extras and done my own individual stuff because I know what I need to perform. So I was always doing different things outside of what we did with training.
And there's a lot to do in Cyprus, really. I mean, you can go for a run on the beach. You know, you can't do that out here unless you're in Bournemouth or Brighton or something. But we've got the weather. We've got the weather.
That was
and how did your family cope with it? Because again, I mean, I don't know if that's the first time they've gone to live abroad. I'm not sure. Obviously, I don't know these things. But was it easy for them to?
I came on my own. My wife didn't come with me. I moved over there on my own to start with, and she was working in England, so I was living there. She was coming over. It worked. The first year worked really well because there was lots of international breaks, so I got to come home a lot.
Right.
And then, or she would come. So it worked out well. The second year, not so much, because there wasn't many international breaks at that point. So it got tough. Sometimes it was going maybe 6 weeks or 2 months without seeing her, so it got challenging in the second year.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about Ermis then, the squad. I think there were quite a few English-speaking players there, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves me correct. Was Danny Invincible there at the time?
Yeah, he was there.
I can't remember.
There was quite a few. Most people could speak English, and obviously there was a mix of different nationalities, but everyone made me feel welcome. As I said, then the coach spoke English, so that helped. So it was quite easy for me, being an English speaker, to come there. Didn't speak any other languages, but to communicate, and you start picking up little words, to communicate with the Cypriot players, because you hear them saying stuff. But we went pre-season, and then literally, I think after that, the chairman, obviously LOUKAS Faniero, he decided there was things going on with Ermis, and they was trying to stop us from being in the league, from what I remember. Can't remember the exact, the ins and outs of it. But he we went and he decided to merge with another team. So we didn't even start the season. It was still pre-season and just before the season, and we merged with another team. He says he took majority of the players he wanted, that he had the nucleus of our team, to the other team, which was kind of crazy as well, because we go to this new team. The manager isn't our manager, because the manager of that team was the manager. He's got his own players. We're now like outsiders. So we're training, we go in the change room, we're sitting on one side, they're the players already at that team sitting on another side. It's like they didn't really want to mingle with us. The kit they was giving us wasn't the best. It just made us feel like we was outsiders. So I think it was maybe we played a friendly game, and then most of our team was on the bench. and I think we got like 20 minutes here or something like that. I came on in the game. Cut a long story short, I spoke to the president and said, listen, I can't stay here because I was being treated. We was all being treated differently. All of us felt the same. But because I had a good relationship with him, I spoke up and said, listen, I can't continue like this because this man's not playing me. I know I should be playing because every time I came on, I was doing something. And you know the level, you can see yourself and everybody else knows. So it wasn't like I wasn't trying to be disrespectful to the rest of the players. But I was just saying I know I should be playing, as I said. But the guy had his favorites. It wasn't on merit. It was on because they're his players. And most of them he brought in. So it was kind of like a strange situation. So then I end up going to, well, Lucas, I spoke to him, and then obviously the agent that brought me there, he was a Ermis, my brain's gone.
Salamina?
Yes, he was a Salamina fan. So obviously he knew Chris Dixon was there as well. And obviously Dicko was English, Steve Constantine is English Cypriot. He knew of me because he'd been at Millwall, so he knew my career. He had been up, was an Arsenal fan. So they started talking, and obviously Steve knew the situation at the club, what we went to. So he spoke to Dicko. Dicko lived on the complex where I lived because it's quite a lot of the players lived all in the same complex. So Dicko said to me like, oh, my manager wants to know if you're interested in coming to our team. We've just been, obviously we came up that year, they came up. So he's like, look, we've got some good players. Would you be interested? I said, listen, I'm interested because I'm not happy where I am. I don't see a future at that club, obviously. And I'm trying to, it's either that or I'm going to go back to England. Anyway, fast forward, meet Steve, decide to go there, spoke to obviously Lucas, and he was happy with that. And then that's how I ended up going to Nea Salamina. But that wasn't the original place I signed for, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Space of like three weeks, maybe 4 weeks, a month maximum of me being there, I've gone from one club to another club to another club. And then obviously the season starts. I think I trained with Salamina maybe a week, 2 weeks maximum, if it was that, before the first game we play. And you know, it was just all happened so quickly.
Yeah.
Said it was meant to be, as they say.
Well, this is the thing about Cyprus, that they're so slow when it comes to certain things, but when things need to be done, they actually get them done at the quickest time you never imagine. It's unbelievable. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
It was, like I said, it happened so quick.
Well, this is it. And I'm pretty certain that, you know, when you made your debut at the club, I get the feeling you might have been a little bit surprised with the level of the first division, because obviously you got players from various countries, Portugal, Spain. So I'm assuming you probably felt, right, this is more technical than I thought it was originally.
Yeah, it surprised me because, like you said, there was players from all over the world. We had, in our team, we had Brazilian, Portuguese, African, me and Dicko from England, Cypriot. We had some Maltese international. We had players Finnish. There were so many nationalities in our team, but then that was the same across the league.
Yeah.
When you start playing teams and you're seeing, oh wow, and as I said, a lot of the guys lived on our complex, so you got to see the different nationalities. But I didn't know who the players, all of them, were at that point because I was new to the country. But as you start playing the teams and you see the games on TV, you start to see the level is, especially when you played in it, it was like, wow, there's some good players here.
Yeah. Well, you had players like, who was there? You had Diego Leon, pretty big name.
Yeah, Diego Leon was there. Dicko. We had at one stage, it weren't my first season. I think it was the end. No, he came in January, I think. Oh my God.
Was he from? Where's he from?
We had Dieter. I can't remember his surname. He was a centre forward from
Belgium.
Yes, we had Dieter, who was up front, and then we got Opa came in the January. I think it was around January. Opa came.
Yeah, the Estonian striker.
Who done really well for us, you know. And then obviously Roque Santa Cruz came. We got him, who's a winger, played on the right. So we had good players, and said we surprised a lot of teams because they didn't expect us to play the way we played. We was all very good technical footballers. So, we had Dicko with his speed up front. Then you had me playing I started on the wing, but then I ended up being playing number 10 behind Dicko because obviously of my technical skills, I could dribble, and the way we played was more like counter-attacking. So we had me and him with speed to, if we got the ball, I could get up there or I could unlock defensive between me and Diego Leon, because Diego didn't stay there very long. I think he left in the January as well. I think he went to, is it China or somewhere? I can't remember where he went to. So, but we surprised a lot of teams. Like we played Anorthosis in my first game, and obviously I score on my debut, and
in the last minute,
we should have won the game. So they was very surprised at how good we were as a team. Everyone expected, because we just came up, that we would be the beating stick, but we wasn't. We think we finished, was it 4th that season?
Something like yeah.
And no one expected it, So it was, as I said, a lot of things. We have to give a lot of credit to obviously Steve Constantine for bringing the players that he did to the club and the way he worked, and I got a good relation. I'm still very close with him now.
I don't think he gets the credit he deserves, mate.
No, I don't. Go on.
The sad thing about it is there are very few, and this is no disrespect to him, but there are very few Cypriot coaches out there that have not only his experience, but the knowledge of the game, but also has a very modern way of thinking. And it's almost as if they pushed him to one side. When the national team job became available, he should have been front and center of that. It's just remarkable how they just, he had some time at Buffer a couple of years ago. And the last few games, he got them into the top 6 for the first time in their history. And yet here he is, no disrespect, but he's not doing what he should be doing, man. I find it a little bit disrespectful, in all fairness.
Yeah, I agree. There's been times I've said to him, like, "Are you go for these jobs? I can't go for it." He said, I do, but I don't really get very far. I don't know why. And I'm like, I can't understand. He's been to other countries and as a national coach in numerous countries and done well with those countries who are not on the map. No one wouldn't think that they could achieve what they've achieved. And as you said, he's done it in Cyprus. I think he deserves an opportunity at a higher level to show what he can do, because he's proven it with lesser, if people look at it that way, lesser players. So what could he do with top players or better players? This is just how I think. I said sometimes people, they only want people who are coaching or managed at the highest level. But how do you get opportunity if someone doesn't give you the opportunity because you're lower down? It doesn't mean you can't go. You just need to look at what they do, how they perform with the players that they have at that specific time. And I think he's proven that time and time again.
Yeah. And do you know what, mate? This season in the Cyprus First Division, there have been 15 managerial casualties. Last season was 18. And the year before that was 26.
Wow.
And Stephen Constantine wasn't in the frame for any of them. And it's just absolutely bizarre how a coach who, and as you quite rightly said, you've seen him there. He got Salamina from, relegation candidates to top 4.
He brought them up first from the division before, the season before. The season I came, they just got promoted that year. And then, as I said, we were top 4 that season, the first season in the in the top division. So that proves that he's a good coach.
Yeah.
And as I said, I don't understand it. This is what baffles me as a lot of the time, and again, I think when I look at coaching, it shows that sometimes obviously you can be lucky if you get a big club and you've got money, you can buy the best players. But what would someone be like when they have to nurture players that are not so good? That's where I think craft is, because a lot of other things come into it then. Personal relationships, dealing with individuals.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder.
Absolutely.
So he's proven it time and time again, but he's still not getting opportunities. I don't know the reasons why, but I'm like you. I find it like, why he doesn't have a job in one of the big clubs in Cyprus at the least, the minimum, even around the world. I think he should, maybe in England, he deserves opportunities.
And see, here's the thing, right? He's actually taken on head coach roles at national teams. We're not talking about club teams. We're talking about national teams where the pressure is so much different. It's just, I don't know, man.
And they've won games as well against the best and much bigger teams. He gets them like qualified. I think, was it in India? He got them qualified. You know?
Yeah, for a tournament. Yeah, there was.
They never before got nowhere near it. And you know, so he's been doing a lot of good things, but again, he just doesn't get the credit.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your time at Salamina then, especially your first season. You scored quite a few goals, especially against my team. You scored twice. You scored once against OMONOIA in a 2-2 draw.
Yeah.
Tell me about these experiences playing the likes of Salamina, Anorthosi and OMONOIA and Apoel, because obviously Salamina, as you know, are one of the refugee teams. Then you got Anorthosi, another refugee team, scored on your debut. Did you notice any hostilities? Did you notice anything in the stands from various clubs as well?
Yeah, you know, Anorthosi, obviously I score and fans go crazy, that they're fans, and they're throwing things on the pitch. And after the game, like, we're sitting on the bus waiting for players, and then we just see like loads of guys with hoods up and stuff and covered faces, and they've got sticks and bats, and they start throwing bricks at the police are there in front, and they're throwing bricks over the police at our bus, and it smashed our window. Like, we're like, I'm just sitting there, I'm like, what's going on? This is like gone back in the dark ages. I've never seen that before. Like, fans come like that. It was like, wow. And you know, it was I said, the one good thing though, in the stadiums, they sing and it's loud, and there was an atmosphere, and you see the flares coming on the pitch before the game and even during the game as well. But there was always singing and generally merry. So it was, the atmospheres were always good, especially at the bigger clubs. As I said, it was, for me, that my first game, obviously, when I scored. So then they start, obviously, wasn't expecting us to do as well as we did that game, you know, so, which is normal. So the opposite, where they're the home fans, they're very vocal. But as I said, it was a great experience to see that. And then when I played OMONOIA, the same things. I said, we had nothing to fear because no one was the underdog. No one expected us to do what we did against them. But obviously, after the first round of games, when we played them the second time, now it was a bit different because they knew that we could play. So it wasn't a surprise anymore. But OMONOIA tried to sign me as well at one point.
Really?
Yeah, they tried to sign me, but it didn't.
Was this in your first year, the end of your first season?
Yeah, it was when I was under my first season.
Tell me more about this, please. I need to know. It
was strange because there was talks of clubs interested in me. Obviously, I heard about OMONOIA. I had spoken to a player there who I knew. His agent was quite connected. So they came to me and said, look, they're interested in signing, but we need to speak to Salamina and try and get something sorted. So he said, would you be interested? I said, yeah, of course I would. Why not? They're one of the biggest clubs in Cyprus. Why wouldn't I want to go there? And obviously my friend at the time, he had told me what it was like there, training and what their setup was like and stuff. So I said, yeah, I'll be interested. Obviously, if Salamina, they have to be in agreement with it, obviously.
Right.
So there was talks going on, but in the end, they didn't agree. So I don't know they didn't give me the reasons why it didn't happen, but it just never happened.
Do you know what? You said that there was a player that you knew his agent. I'm thinking, who could it have been? Because Efrem played in England. Christophe played, I think Christophe played in England, or he played for Rangers. Yeah. I can't remember. There was
him in Cyprus.
What's that? Sorry?
I met the player in Cyprus. He wasn't English though.
You met him in Cyprus?
Yeah, he lived on my complex, but we became because we all, as I said to you, it was like a little community. So we all speak and, you know.
Was he Portuguese by any chance?
No, it was French.
It was French?
Yeah. Sephion. Remember Sephion?
Ah, okay. Right.
Yeah. And he's coaching. He coaches now as well. He's in France. Like I still keep in contact. Like he was a very good guy. Like someone that I became very close with because, as I said, we lived on the complex. It was very similar in how we were, you know, very quiet. As I said, he told me a lot of stories about obviously Omonia and stuff and how it was good and how he was enjoying his time there. He said, oh yeah. And he was saying to me, like, the coach really likes you. They like you. They want you to come. Would you come? And I'm like, I thought he was just messing about in the beginning. Because he was saying, it's like, oh yeah, the coach keeps on asking me about you and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, they need to speak to Salamina. It's not really, I don't know how it works here. And then...
So was it finances? That was the thing?
I don't know. No? Nobody ever told me what the reason was. I just, as I said to you, when this agent, he was Cypriot, the agent at the time, he spoke to me and said, look, the club would like to know if you're interested. They would like to sign you and bring you to the club. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, if Salamina's okay with it and I'm happy, I'll be happy to go and speak to them properly, like further. Because obviously it's just the agent speaking. I wanted to say, listen, I need to speak to the president and whoever to find out what they're from them, and then we'll speak to Salamina. But as I said, nothing actually came of it.
Oh man! And then
it's around the time when I think because Dicko moved from Salamina to where did he go? IL. So
and he won a title.
Right. So it was Dicko had moved. So there was talk because he had already sorted out and saying he's going there for next season. I think he might have went. Did he go before? I'm trying to think when he moved.
Didn't he go halfway through the season in 2012?
Might have been the second season he moved. Yeah. So there was talk of me going at the end of the season. Then he moved in the middle of the season.
January 2012. Yeah.
And there was still talks of other talks of teams being interested in me, but nothing materialized. And I said Salamina didn't want to let me go at that point neither. When my second season, they definitely, because we was obviously struggling, different things were happening. Obviously, Steve left literally at the beginning of the season, before pre-season. It was during pre-season. He didn't agree his contract and there was lots of issues. So he left and then someone else came in. So
yeah, the Macedonian guy.
Yeah, which was crazy. That guy was crazy, man. Some of the things, like we'd turn up to training and then we're doing the warm-up and then the coach would turn up and he would sit on the bench and he's smoking a cigarette while we're doing our warm-up and stuff. And we're like, what? Like, it was just bizarre, some of the things that he would do. And the trainer, I used to say to him, like, can we do extra? I wanted to do extra. He's like, no, it's enough. I'm like, I need to do more. This training is not enough for me. we used to train in the afternoon with him. So in the mornings, I would go and do my own stuff. Like where I lived, I would go to there's a park there. So I'd go and do my sprints and go and do all this other stuff before I trained in the afternoon, because the training just wasn't giving me enough. I was finding like going into matches, I wasn't ready physically because the training wasn't hard enough. But he just had this idea of what he wanted to do. I said he used to just sit there smoking his cigarettes, and I'm just I've done that. A coach just watching the warm-up smoking a cigarette. I'm like, this is crazy. He would turn up literally once we're warming up. He wouldn't be there before us, which I've never known that. Like coaches are always there, always the training's already set up when you come.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that with him, but that was just his way of doing stuff. And as I said, he didn't last very long.
Not surprised. Not surprised.
But, you know, as I said, this is that I said there was lots of different experience in Cyprus. I remember me and Dicko, we had to go to the stadium to go and see the president. So it was a Saturday. We was playing on the Sunday. So you know there's the roundabouts that split the three clubs. So you got Salamina and yes. So obviously we're coming down the road towards one of the roundabouts to go left to our stadium, and I think Anorthosis is right. So we're seeing a little bit of traffic, think, oh, okay, and it was slow moving, and then people are turning around and coming back. So we're thinking, what's going on? So as we get closer, we get to the roundabout, there must have been about 100 guys, again, hooded up, masked up with sticks and weapons on the roundabout. They're waiting to obviously, for whoever was playing, I think Anorthosis was playing someone, I think they was waiting to have a fight. But obviously, they're making people turn around and not letting no one through. So me and Dicko get to the roundabout. Dicko's driving, and we're looking at each other and thinking, shit, what's going on here? Like, we kind of thinking, are they going to recognize us and trouble us? That's what we're thinking. But then they've just like parted, and we said we want to go left, and they just moved out the way and said, go, go, go. We was like, but it was turning everyone else back. We couldn't believe it. The stadium, and we're thinking, oh my God, we both still looking at it.
You do your crosses, you know.
Was we imagining it? We was in shock. But that was seen, as I said, because we saw it outside the bus, but I'd just never seen it. Like, you know, when you hear about like clubs, especially England, like Arsenal, Tottenham, and back in the day where they used to meet up, and it still happens from time to time. Don't get me wrong, but you don't see it. I was just like, wow, this was just crazy. But they just let us go. We just couldn't believe it. They were turning so many cars back, but they just decided to let us two go through with this, and we're just looking like, nah.
Yeah,
just never experienced something like that. But I said, my experience with Cypriot people was always good. Everyone made me feel welcome. Even like I had OMONOIA fans, you know, the fish and chip shop at where the army barracks is.
Okay, yeah.
So my friend took me there, obviously, and then when obviously the owners are they're OMONOIA fans, so we used to have banter all the time. And then he was saying to me, oh, my team needs to sign you. He kept on saying this to me, and then obviously later down the line, obviously they did try to sign me, but everyone made me feel welcome, even in the town centre at the end of my first year. Was it? No, yeah, I bought one of my dogs over in the second year, and I used to take her walking through the town because obviously I lived in the town and I moved from Pila to the city centre. So I used to, before training, take her out, after training. So when I would be coming home from training, sometimes I'm walking through town. People asking me, where's the dog? Where's the dog? They just wanted to see my dog. Yeah, just played with my dog. And then even like there's a juice bar there. I used to go there every day. Then my mum, and every time people came to visit, like my family came, I'd take them there. And my mum moved there. So she lives in Cyprus now, and she still goes to the juice bar, and he's always asking for me. And, you know, so
nice.
The people are just so warm. Even at the hotel we used to go to for pre-match, my mum got married there. And the guy, he still works there, and whenever my mum goes there, he asks for my mum because they go there a lot of the time, sometimes to just eat at the restaurant and go to the beach there. So he's you know, so people was always warm and welcoming to me, even though some of them didn't support the team that I played for, but they appreciated what I did, you know, and me as a player. So as I said, my experiences has always been good.
So this is a question that I ask most of the guests that come on, and the non-Cypriot guests, obviously. Now, I'll tell you the very quick story. I was in Bafo in October, and I was driving back to Larnaca, which is where I was staying. And as we're about to turn off to get towards Larnaca, there was a big lorry in the middle of the road, in the middle of the highway, the motorway, just blocking everything off.
Yeah.
And as I'm approaching it, I see the driver jump out in the middle of the highway and chasing something. Turned out it was a goat that got off the back of the truck, and it was running on the highway. And it's ran past my car. And did I just imagine this? This is what we say. This is Cyprus. These are the things that happen. So were there any specific moments? I mean, you mentioned the one with Dicko, but were there any other specific moments, non-football related, just like in general, that made you think this is completely surreal and it's completely different to what I'm used to seeing in England, but this is Cyprus?
Yeah, there would be times we'd be driving to training and same thing, dogs running down the motorway. And like, I'm like, Dicko, like, what's going? Be careful. The dog's just like zooming, and we're like, he's like, this is normal here. It happens all the time. And I'm like, what? Dogs on the motorway? He said, yeah, people just let them loose sometime, and they just leave them there, and you see them running down the motorway. I've seen other animals as well, like you said, goats, or there was a horse once running down the motorway. So it's just like, this is normal. And I'm like, wow, like it's another world. But I suppose my parents are from Jamaica. I suppose you'd see the same things in Jamaica. It's just because it's an island, right? So this is normal, whereas England isn't the same because people have their land and they keep them in their land, and it's far away generally from the motorway, or they're, you know, it's, as I said, it's a beautiful place though. And the people, as I said, my experience, the people made me feel so welcome. I had, obviously, I don't know if you want to touch on times where we didn't get paid and stuff like that.
What, the floor is yours, mate, because I'm pretty certain this has happened a few times.
Yeah, after it was different when I was obviously at Ermis, and I always got paid because FANIEROS, that was one of the issues that I spoke to him about as well, like coming there, because I had heard little things about people not getting paid and stuff. With him, I got paid on time all the time. He would just call me and say, be at my office or meet me at this place at such and such a time, and I'll get paid. Or if he wasn't there at the office, one of his workers who worked for him, they would have the money and I would get paid. Then obviously fast forward, he was still paying me for a bit when I went to Salamina. Then obviously they took over. Initially, me and Dicko was always getting paid. We'd go together, see the president or somebody would be there, we'd get paid. Some of the other players maybe weren't getting paid, but me and Dicko would get paid. And then I started to have an issue with that. I was saying to the chairman, like, well, it's not fair because there's other players in my team who are not getting paid and we're getting paid and we're playing with them. So you need to make sure everybody gets paid. So it kind of changed in the first year where people, even if you was getting some of your salary and not all, so we all got something because everybody's got bills to pay. And me, I didn't have kids, but obviously my wife's back in England and, you know, and I'm living in Cyprus. People are there. Some of my teammates were there with their wives, girlfriends, and they've got kids. Like Dicko just had a new baby at that point as well. So, you know, it just wasn't something that didn't sit well with me. And then there was times when we went maybe two months and we hadn't been paid for 2 months. And around this time, I think it was coming up to Christmas. So, and we wasn't doing very well. So 1, they hadn't paid us. 2, the club's not doing very well. We're not winning games. I think this is when we had the Macedonian coach.
Right.
Then I said I wanted to go home in the Christmas period. They said, no, you can't go home. And I was like, okay, no problem. And my wife saying to me, well, why are you staying there when they're not paying you? What's the point? But I said, I can't. I've got a contract. I need to honor my contract. That's just how I am. I said, if I leave, then that doesn't look good on me. It just doesn't sit well with me. And I don't want to give up on my teammates, you know? So there was times that I said we didn't get paid for 2 months. Then there was another time after that in the January, my cousin died in England. And then, no, actually, I went home December, actually. They said I could go home for 5 days. So I went home for 5 days in December, came back. When I came back, I had left my dog with somebody to look after. So I come back, my wife comes with me. We get back, find out my dog escaped and had been missing from I left it.
Oh my God.
Then obviously, so I got a land back and I phoned the guy. He's not answering his phone. I'm thinking, this is weird. Anyway, keep on phoning, keep nothing. Then he messaged me, says, oh, you can come tomorrow, to come to my house tomorrow. So I said, okay, no problem. So then in the morning, I call him to say, like, I'm going to leave now. He's still not answering. Then he sends me a message, I've got something to tell you. And I'm like, what? He says, I'll tell you when you come. So obviously I drive to Nicosia, get there. He says to me, I've got bad news. Your dog escaped. From the day I left her, so I left her today, she escaped the next morning. So I'd been away for about 5 days, a week. I can't remember how long it was, but he didn't tell me. So all that time she had been missing. So anyway, I'm just said, where was she last seen? Oh, she was seen in the town. So I just go to the town, start looking for maybe the whole time my wife was there was maybe 10 days, I think, because she extended it in there because we couldn't find the dog. But we had, obviously, people had cited her because she was black with white markings and stuff, and they didn't have many of those dogs in Cyprus at that time, and they hadn't seen them. So people had sighted her. Anyway, we're looking, couldn't find her. We end up, I went and put posters up, all of this stuff. I go to the papers in the end. I put an article in the newspaper. Obviously, it's in Cypriot. Saturday. This is like, my wife's gone home now. She left that day. So, sorry, that weekend I get the phone call Saturday morning. Some Cypriot guy speaking Cypriot. I couldn't understand the word he's saying. He's like, oh, the guy's like, she lost. That's all I understood. I knew it meant dog. I'm like, called the agent guy, because he was my friend Sulteris, his name is. I call Sulteris and say, listen, can you call this number? The guy is speaking to me in Cypriot. He's saying he's seen the dog, Shilos. Can you call him? He calls him, speaks to him, says, yes, he's seen the dog at this car wash yesterday.
Car wash?
Yeah, my dog, cut a long story short, we go there. I drive all the way there, get there, speak to the guys at the car wash, said, yeah, she had been here for like 3 or 4 days, but she was on the grass across the road at first, just sitting there watching, because she was very like people. She liked people. She was very friendly. Yeah. So she's sitting, but she's scared, obviously, because she's been looking for me. So they said after they gave her water, maybe put some water down, because she moved away, and they put the water down, and they came, she was drinking the water, and then they gave her food. And eventually she came into the car wash. She started being in the car wash for a couple of days. He said the Friday, so this is the Saturday, the Friday, the day before, he said she was in here and something startled her and she ran out and a car killed her. So obviously I went to authorities. I couldn't get them until the Monday, because obviously Saturday didn't work. So I had to wait till the Monday. So I drove all the way back there on the Monday, and they showed me they had buried her. So they showed me, they dug up the body, because you know they got loads of places roadkill and stuff. So they dug up, because she's very distinctive. It was easy for them to recognize her. And they said it just happened on the Friday. Now we're on the Monday, and it was her. So that just, obviously I was just so hurt and angry, upset. I had so many different emotions, because as I said, this guy, I never spoke to him again after that. Because once I left his house that day, when he told me what happened, I didn't go back, because I just wanted to find my dog, as I said. And it just, as I said, that happened. Then I wasn't getting paid. Obviously, my cousin had just died as well. Literally, I'd been back in that time. I got back into Cyprus while I was looking for my dog. My cousin died in England. So after this happened, I said to the club, can I go home? And they said no, because we wasn't doing very well. We can't afford to not have you, blah, blah, blah. And I was like really hurt at that time. But at the same time, I just had to focus and try and do my job. Like I said, my wife was saying to me, just come home, just forget about them, because they're not paying you anyway. So why do you know, all the same things. And so it was just like a tough time. That second year was really challenging for me, but I still had to perform, you know, and the team was struggling and everyone's looking to me to do things. Obviously, Dicko's gone by this time. So it's just a lot of pressure was on me. But, you know, thankfully we stayed up. But then this is some issues, because the Macedonian coach was still there. So one game we're playing, and at half time, like we're 2-0 or 3-0 down, but the goals, I couldn't believe how they came. First 2 minutes, our defender gives away a penalty. Then there's this goal that was offside, but they didn't give offside. And then, so at half time, I'm raging. I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm getting angry, because we're losing and we needed to be we could have had the opportunity to be in the playoffs, or you know what I mean? Because they have that kind of playoff thing where you can go down and get relegated.
That's
so I'm like, what's going on? So then all my teammates are like, don't worry, so just calm down, it's okay, it's okay. And I'm saying, what do you mean it's okay? We're losing. Then one of them says to me, he was Macedonian, so obviously he knows the coach, and he's worked him because he brought him in, and he's like, listen, don't worry, everything's going to be okay, we're going to survive. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, the game has been fixed. So I'm like, what do you mean the game's been fixed? I said, I don't understand. So he's explaining to me, and I said, listen, I don't want to be a part of this. So I said to the coach, you better take me off, because I'm not being involved in any of this stuff. It's not how I no. So obviously the coach took me off. After the game, the president comes to speak to me and says, look, don't worry, everything's going to be okay. I said, listen, if you don't want to do those things, just don't make me be a part of it. Just tell me and don't play me. But obviously they couldn't not play me at the point because it would have been a problem.
Because people will be asking questions, why is he not playing? We need to stay up. Yeah.
Obviously I came off. I'm just like, that was the first time. Obviously I heard about it, but I wasn't aware that, you didn't actually to know that it was actually happening. I heard that it does happen, but I was like, no, really? But then obviously I'm seeing it happen now in front of me, you know what I mean? So I just said, I don't want to be a part of this because that's not how I play football to win. So I know, you know what I mean? It's been, and it made sense because after the game, I'm thinking that's why the penalty, it just made sense of, but people were told, certain players were told, if that made sense. So that's why things were happening. I wasn't told what was going on because they knew if they would have told me, I wouldn't have played. So that's exactly why they didn't tell me. And then I said at halftime, I said to the coach, I'm not going back out there. You better sub me. And then he did. And then the president obviously spoke to me after, and I just said to him, I'm not happy about this. And I don't put me in that situation again. So as I said, it was just that one game that I know of, and with my time, with my team, it was, you know what I mean? It didn't sit well with me, man. I was in England.
The thing is, you do see a lot of strange decisions, even now in Cyprus. I think now it's more difficult to fix games, or in the top division anyway. It's much more difficult than what it used to be. They've got VAR in, they've got foreign referees as well. So it's changed a lot. But back then, as I said, there weren't many eyes on the league back then. So you could get away with anything.
Yeah, and I think obviously it's because it's all political, isn't it? All of the presidents know each other. They're all friends and certain things, and it helps each other for different reasons. Hoping to do different things at the time for the club we was playing against. Maybe it wasn't them directly, but it was somebody else that was in this. Do you know what I mean? So I understood it when they told me, but I'm like, for me as a footballer, when I go out to win. There isn't no any of that stuff going in my mind. When I step over that line, it's me versus my opponent. I want to win the game because that's just how it's always been for me. That competitiveness is in me. So that's why I said when I found out half time, and I'm like, this isn't for me. Just take me off, because I was raging anyway. But it was losing. So, and then I found out that's the reason, and other people knew about it as well, and I didn't. That got me even more upset. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, why does everybody else know? I'm the only one that doesn't. But then when I calmed down, I realized, as I said, I know if they told me, they knew I wouldn't have played.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, mate, I've got one more question to ask you. What you've just spoke about was probably the low point of your time in Cyprus, I assume anyway. What would you say was the most enjoyable moment? It doesn't have to be football related. It could be anything off the field.
I think I met some amazing people in Cyprus that I'm still close with now, you know, and as I said, that for me is the bonus, because football has given me so much. I've met some wonderful people, whether it's been in England, you know, that are foreign, like I said, Thierry Henry, somebody I may never have had that opportunity if I wasn't playing football, to meet these great people. They're not just good footballers, but they're great people as well, you know, and same like Steve, the players I mentioned, Steffion, Dico, you know, and other people that are not football related, that are still FANIEROS, for instance, still used to call me up and ask me about players from England. Oh, is there any English players that you can recommend? And, you know, stuff like that. And other people that I've met that live in Cyprus that I'm still in contact with, you know, and they make me feel welcome. And they're, you know, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place. As I said, in my experience, apart from the few negatives, but that's life. There's good and bad in everything, you know, and I just try and focus on the good things. But as for me, it was a great experience for me to leave England, to go play in another country and experience that, and met some wonderful people.
Well, that's the perfect end to the podcast. And Julian, thank you ever so much for your time. It's been great talking to you. And to be honest, I'm sure that you've just touched a little bit on your experiences in Cyprus. Maybe another time when you got more time, maybe end of the season when you got more time, we can talk more about other things. And it'll be great to have you back on again, mate. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. And like I said, yeah, I'm open to speaking to you again. And as I said, we can catch up. And I hope your listeners enjoy the conversation we've had today and a little bit insight.
I'm certain they have. I'm certain they have. Excellent. Well, boys and girls, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back very, very soon tonight. Adios.